Edo State Governor Obaseki don set a target of 6 billion naira as internally generated revenue of Edo State by 2023. Obaseki tok dis one for the 6th edition of Alagodown Investment Summit wey shele for Benin City to mark Governor Obaseki's 6 years for power with the theme Edo's Transformation, Partnership, Resilience, Impact. This Alagodown Investment Summit will bring together different ogbonge persons from all over the world, come see Omonoba Nedo, Uku Akpolokpolo, Oba Ewa II, CFRO, as special guests. Governor Obaseki went thank Edo people for the support they don't give in government. Consti talks a part of the things where Edo they do for the last 6 years not to increase IGR. He talks for ogbonge growth to happen to Edo State, it go come from the resources when the state gets. Obaseki say the civil service now be the engine of government and the focus of this administration not to build the civil service.
We have over 200 million people in Nigeria who are going to be 150 million people in several years to come. These people are not going to die. They are not going to go away. They will continue to live here. And they will not stop consuming. Therefore, if this is our reality, it means that we cannot and should not be despondent. God has given us something that he has not given many countries and many people in the world. We have a huge domestic market. These 200 million more people, they have to eat. They have to consume. If we cannot import, are we going to die? We will have to create the things we consume in this country. That is why governments must now rely on those people who have the capacity and knowledge to produce the things we consume. Governments cannot continue to behave as if they have all the resources because they don't have the resources anymore. The people who have the resources are you, the citizens, the private sector. So government has to be restructured to ensure that you trust us and you're able to bring the resources we need for the benefit of all of us. States will have to reorder their priorities. And that is what we've tried to do over the last 6 years, to make sure that we can meet our financial obligations, both to the people who work for the state and to our citizens. In the last 6 years, things have not been easy, but we have tried in our little way. You can see from 2016 when we got in, how we have tried to increase IGR. Except for the COVID year, we have sustained an increase in our internally generated revenues. And next year, we hope we will end next year with over 60 billion internally generated revenues. We see growth ahead of us. And this growth is going to come from certain endowments which we have, which most people don't have. Our culture. People must come and see us and admire what our forebears built. Our forestry assets, the world is talking about net zero carbon. We have something to contribute to the environment and the environmental economy. Manufacturing, as I will show you, that is the way to go. Edo has the largest onshore gas reserves in Nigeria. Most of our other gas is in the swamps and in the offshore. With that energy source, with that fuel source, there is no reason why we cannot generate as much electricity to attract industrialization and industries. Agriculture, that is what we grew up with. Of our 19 million square kilometers of land, there's practically no place of those 19 million square kilometers you cannot grow something. For us, the future is technology, because the world is about technology. And that is an area of focus. There are very few places like Edo in Nigeria. Many other places, you have to make up your mind that you are going there. You don't, except you want to go to Akwa Ibom, you cannot get there. But in the case of Edo, anywhere you want to go to in this country, you pass through here. So whereas other people have to do things to attract people and traffic, we sit here and traffic must pass through. That advantage very few people have. That gives us access to huge markets. And that makes us a hub for national infrastructure. So most national infrastructure, whether it's transport, whether it's electricity transmission, or whether it's a gas transmission, pass through Edo. That's why we are the cheapest location to generate electricity in Nigeria. What did we do when we came in? We said, look, we have tons of problems, myriads of problems, but let us put them, frame them within 6 areas and see how we can start working on them. The first for us was rebuilding our institutions. As the chairman said, without an engine, a car cannot move. And the engine of government is the civil service, it's the bureaucracy. If the civil service does not function right, government cannot function. So our emphasis has been rebuilding our institutions. When we came in, they had challenges. Sometimes salaries were not being paid. Civil servants, public servants could not use the toilets in their offices. They had to go and look for places to. There was no training. There was no sense of accountability. Nobody asked questions. But we didn't give up. Today, 6 years later, we can beat our chest and say that we have a workforce we are proud of. We have a workforce that is truly efficient because we train them. We've created the John Oyegu Public Service Academy, and we've had you. We are currently working on affiliating that school, that academy, to international institutions to strengthen the capacity of our civil service. I said it, that I will be the last governor in Edo State to work with manual files, and we are almost there. My successor will have to work on only digital files. We have upgraded our buildings. The infrastructure is there for all of us to see. But what we have done is to try and cluster government functions in certain areas. So at the Secretariat, we have the bulk of our civil servants. Towards Obawe, we had the ADP, we have the agriculture cluster. So every agency that has to deal with agriculture is located together. In Iyaro, we are going to build the education cluster. So Super Ministry of Education, all the education agencies will be located there. Along Sapere Road, with the fiscal planning agency, IGRs, all located. And the whole idea is to make government more efficient by getting government offices to share common services like electricity, security, and what have you. We will continue to focus on improving the compensation of our civil servants, because it is self-deceit. If we don't pay the civil servants well, they will not be able to deliver on what we expect of them. We've also tried to support the judiciary. We've built new courthouses. We're building world-class accommodation for our judges. We're helping them train judges, and we're moving the whole our whole judicial system into a technology platform also. We haven't given up on the future. For us, sustainability is what is important. We know what we have done and what we have achieved today. Our major worry now is tomorrow. What happens in 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 years' time? So that is what we're concerned about. That's why we're working on our 30-year development plan, a master plan, both in terms of how government works and also in terms of the physical space.
Obaseki talks say another area when government chook eye na the economy. He constantly talk say them don dey focus for agriculture, and the way when they wan do this one na to remove the risk when investors face. Governor Obaseki constantly chook mouth on top of the new town development projects.
The other area we have looked at is the area of the economy. And you all know that Edo was described as a civil service state by the time we came in. Today, I do not believe that description is quite apt. Look at the array of investors who have come in here. Look at the number of jobs they have created and they are creating. What the private sector is creating is now multiples of what government used to create. So the future is about the private sector. In terms of focus, we are concentrating on agriculture. And how are we doing that? Just make sure that we remove the risks which people who want to invest in agriculture face. Risk of land, risk of dispute with communities. The risk they face is, do they have quality people that can work for them? So we're rebuilding our colleges of agriculture. We are saying, look, let us start and stop talking about what we will do. So between last year and this year, we've given out 63,000 hectares of land to 7 investors for oil palm cultivation. This has been described as one of the largest agricultural programs in Africa today. And it has been a close collaboration and cooperation between government and the private sector. And what we've done is to make sure that we incorporate everybody, including the communities, so that the communities can see the benefits that these investors are bringing in. We used to be the #1 location for oil palm production in the world. And we want to see how we can recover that position in the years to come. We're also looking at other areas like cassava, but we're just not producing cassava for food alone. We want to thank some of our investors, particularly Saru, who is here, and Nosak Industries, who have encouraging people to cultivate cassava. And in Edo alone today, they're cultivating more than 100 million tons of cassava, because cassava is now being used as a feedstock for things like ethanol. The ethanol plants in Ikuwaoka, I'm told, will be ready before the end of the first half next year. For us, in anything we do, the role of government is to support the private sector and people who have come to invest. There are things the private sector cannot do themselves. They can't build the schools to train manpower. And without the people to do the work, you cannot import everybody who's going to work for you. So we are emphasizing training, particularly technical training, for the investors who are coming in. In the area of agriculture, we've rebuilt our College of Agriculture with the headquarters in Igwereki. This next year, we're going to be building Agenebode and the college in Urumi. Like I said, Nigeria must manufacture. We don't have the foreign exchange to import the way we used to. And if you are going to manufacture, you need electricity. Because you cannot manufacture buying diesel at 800, 1,000 naira a liter. It will not work. You need cheap electricity. And we are lucky in Edo because of the location of onshore gas. So today, in Europe, with the Ukrainian war, to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity will cost you about 25 cents. In Ologbo, to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity costs us 10 or 11 cents. Who is more competitive? So for us, it's how do government organize the people to create the opportunity and make it easy for businesses to come and locate. And that's what we're doing with the Benin Enterprise Park, which is about a 997 hectare piece of property, which we've demarcated. We're paying compensation to some of the people who were farming there. And by the first quarter next year, work will start. I want to appreciate the role of the Local Content Board, who last week gave approval that they're taking the first 50 hectares in the Benin Industrial Park to build their own industrial park. Edo has to be a modern state. We have to create modern cities. What we see today is that our cities are just expanding into slums because we are not planning. We are not designing, we're not thinking through how people will live today and tomorrow. And that is our emphasis. So government must now come in and supply land. The reason why you are having a lot of land grabbing is that over the years, government had no clear articulated policy to acquire land, demarcate the land, lay it out, and allocate land to people. Because of that gap, people, these young boys who don't have much to do, now took it as an opportunity to fill that gap, to now begin to supply the market land in the way they know how to. This, if government had been doing, would not have happened. But we've stopped that now. We're taking them out of business. We're acquiring land across the state. We're laying out, and we're going to lay out estates. So from January next year, the new towns authorities will be selling forms for people to come and get land in the areas of their choice so that they can build or buy homes. We have been working on our first new town development towards Obage-Nosa, towards Iriri. We had acquired this land in 2017 for the purpose of building a new town, about 1,200 hectares. And once we built the road, the infrastructure, a lot of people came in, encroached, and grabbed some of the land. But we have pushed them back, we've cleared up, development will start in January, and we will now formally and properly allocate land to people who want to reside, who want to build small businesses, and what have you.
Obaseki talk say when dem enter power, dem promise say dem go work on the welfare of the people wey be education, health, jobs and security, sake of say these things dey important to the happiness of the people. E say im belle sweet am with the results wey dey come from the investment for education, and dem go focus for technical education and help young people get ogbonge skills wey go benefit dem wella.
The other area we have worked on is our people. When we came, we promised that for us, government is about people, about the social welfare of our people. And education is key. Health, jobs. I promised that we're going to create 200,000 jobs my first time in office. And security, because without these, people cannot live in happiness and harmony. So what we've done in the last 6 years was to fix the foundation of education. So much has been said, but we're glad at the achievements, at the results we're seeing from our investments in education. From the last analysis that was done, a child in our primary schools today, apart from learning at the rate of 3 times the average in Nigeria, and a child in primary 4 in Edo is learning at about 70% of his or her peer in Europe or America. The impact of this is that after 4 years, we are now seeing these children we started Edo Best with moving into junior schools. And then hopefully they'll be going into senior schools, into senior secondary schools. So we are now rethinking our educational system along the lines of the national education policy, which is that basic education is 9 years. From the time a child is 6 to the time a child is 15, that child should be under the care of government. And that child should receive education that is free, qualitative, and compulsory. That was a policy that was enunciated 25 years ago in this country, which we have failed to follow. And the consequences of not following that policy is what we observed, that under this old arrangement, the dropout ratio between primary 6 and SS1 was 50%. That is what accounts for all these children you see in the motor parks and on the streets. Because we couldn't keep them in school according to the policy to when they should be. At 15, if they wanted to now go and work or do whatever they want to do in their lives, they would have had the foundation to do so. Our emphasis is now on technical education. We are tired of certificates that don't give the children jobs. Let us teach them trades. Let them have handwork. If they want to go and acquire certificates in universities or whatever after that, they can feel free to. But in the meanwhile, they know that they have a trade that will always give them something to earn income with all the days of their lives. We've done quite well in trying to encourage our young ones to look for jobs. We've trained them, we've helped them with job placements. Over 200,000 of them have been introduced to various trades in technology, agriculture, what have you. I want to thank Okinebo Dari and her team, who have worked with young people across the state over the last 5 years to just awaken them to the need to work. We have 7 job centers that have been created. We continue to receive tons of applications from young people, and we're trying to get as many counselors in to support and help redirect these children. Most of what we've been doing in the area of job creation would not have been possible but for the partners that have supported us, particularly the World Bank and the German government, the GIZ, who put a lot of resources. I also want to thank IOM, the international body that's responsible for migration, for the assistance they've given us in the area of jobs. We continue to support small businesses. We've given out about 6 billion Naira of loans to over 7,000 small businesses. Here again, we want to thank our partners, the Central Bank, Bank of Industry, LAPO, and all of you who have worked with us to achieve what we have.
On top technology, Governor Godwin Obaseki talks say them don't get 27 hectares of land for Edo Tech Park, and construction will begin for January 2023. Obaseki constitute on top healthcare matter.
The future is technology. We have, working with Decagon, set up a temporary technology park around Iriri, and we have graduated the 3rd cohort. It has been very successful. So now we are moving in to build a permanent tech park, and we've acquired about 27 hectares by Benin Technical College, and construction of the tech park, which will be the first purpose-built tech park in Nigeria, will commence early in January. In the area of healthcare, we are glad with the efforts that we've put in and the results we've seen. Here again, the emphasis has been basic healthcare, primary healthcare. That is where most of our people go to get health services. So our efforts and our emphasis and our money is being concentrated in primary healthcare. We are on our way to make sure that every political ward has a minimum of 1 well-equipped primary healthcare facility in Edo State. The issue with primary healthcare is not the buildings, it's training the staff, the workers, the choose, the nurses, to be there and what to do when patients come in. That is what our emphasis is on. So we've rebuilt the School of Nursing, and we've started work on rebuilding the School of Health Technology so that we can train the middle-level manpower which is required to drive the reforms in this sector. Healthcare is not cheap. We all know. Somebody needs to pay. In the past, we've deceived ourselves to say government will pay. And we know that government is not the largest provider in the states today. The private sector is the largest provider. So what we've done is to set up a health insurance scheme which is compulsory for all citizens of Edo, such that when you go to receive care, and I've heard from people who have done so, what you pay is minimal or nothing at all for the care you receive from our health centers, either primary or the hospitals. We thank our brothers and sisters in the diaspora who came with a huge medical team last year and performed almost 10,000, had almost 10,000 encounters with our citizens and provided a lot of support and care. That is an attempt to see how we can reverse brain drain in the area of healthcare. Our strategy is spend most of our money on primary healthcare and then partner with the private sector to build secondary and tertiary care. That's what we've done with Benin Specialist Hospital. We're rebuilding Stella Obasanjo hospital. Once we finish, we will partner with people in the private sector to manage the hospital. We are building a medical city around Stella Obasanjo because we have about 30 hectares of land there. And we're making it available for people to come and set up their medical practices. We've started by building Stella Obasanjo. We want to thank the federal government through the Federal Minister of Health for accepting to give us an orthopedic hospital there. And we're getting proposals on an ongoing basis to set up cardiology hospitals, a hospital for cardiology, a hospital for oncology, and so that we can have a complete medical city. The advantage we have is that that hospital, or our hospitals today, whether it's a specialist or the Stella Obasanjo, is on what we call the power corridor. So the IPP feeds these hospitals, and so you don't have to run generators when you are performing operations.
On top sports, security, transportation, electricity, forestry, and other sectors, Obaseki constantly talk say
Edo is about sports. We know what our late father, Governor Samuel Ogbemudia, did with sports, and we're reenacting it. Apart from rebuilding the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium and about 20 other mini stadia across the state, we're working hard with the Ministry of Education to make sure we catch our young people early in terms of sports. So it is now compulsory. Sports is now compulsory in most of our schools. I want to thank the Ministry of Education for ensuring that every school undertakes inter-house sports. And through that process, we're hoping that we begin to identify talents at a very young age. But we are moving our whole sporting agenda towards the private sector by forming associations. I want to thank the managing partner of PwC, Mr. Uyi Akwata, I'm not sure he's here, for what he has done with cricket in Edo State. Today, Edo is the cricket hub, the emerging cricket hub in Nigeria, and it's now recognized internationally. For security, we want to thank the citizens of Edo. We want to thank our royal father, Oba Atokwe. The communities have been amazing. We have keyed into the traditional security infrastructure which we inherited from our empire days, and it is working because all communities today now have part of the Edo State vigilante networks. We're providing them logistics and support, communication devices, and you will all agree with me that crime is not what it used to be. From the data we have, because we track crime data on a daily basis, we've seen the incidence of cultism come down drastically from 2021. We've seen the incidence of armed robbery. We're still managing to bring down the incidence of kidnapping. It's usually high at this time of the year during the dry season, but thanks to our new Commissioner of Police, the strategies are in place and we will not have the kind of situations we've had in the past. The mega agenda is one in which we hope to rebuild our state. We will continue to work on our infrastructure. We'll continue to build roads. We'll continue to attract investors to come and invest in electricity. Edo is the only state in Nigeria today that has now created its own electricity law, because we found that there's nothing in the Constitution which stops us from having our own electricity law in Edo State. So we now have an electricity law in Edo State, which now gives us the authority, the power to grant licenses to people who want to come and generate electricity in Edo or want to come and distribute electricity in Edo. Edo's aim is to be the first smart state in Nigeria, and we have gone a long way towards achieving that. Today, we have about 1,200 kilometers of fiber optics laid across the state, or being laid across the state. In Benin City alone, we have about 400 kilometers of fiber in this city. So the thing now is we have the infrastructure. We will now have to stimulate our citizens and businesses to use. All our local governments before the end of next year will be connected by fiber. And we want to thank our partners. We haven't put in all the money. We have just, in some cases, allowed them free right of way so that they can lay the fiber and allow to use the fiber. Edo is a natural transportation hub. Like I said, from the west, you have expressways coming in. From the east, you have expressways going out. To the south-south, you have expressways. To the north, by the grace of God, that expressway will be constructed. So we are a hub, a transport hub. But until we came, we've never had a transport policy in Edo State. So transportation has always been managed by the touts and agberos. We are the first government to now say, we must have a clear transportation policy. You just can't buy your bus and put on the road and do what you like. We will have to regulate how it works. And that the roads should be built as a result of the requirements of transport. Not that you have roads being built without understanding the transport requirement of the people. That is the mistake we've always made in Nigeria. In Edo, we are going to reverse that because we've created a transport authority which regulates transportation and will advise on what we need to do in terms of building roads. We have started with the Central Park. There's no Central Park. We're expanding that. We have to build about 4 parks around the city because part of the problems with traffic is that we have motor parks everywhere that are unregulated and they pick up passengers and obstruct traffic. That will have to be corrected because we're going to build parks and we're going to encourage private people to manage those parks with us so that people can have decent terminals or the terminal for moving passengers. And that way it also helps us with security. We are building 2 trailer parks. The funding is being raised now. We've gotten interests from some large transporters in the country. One is going to be in Aho by the bypass, and one is going to be in Abiele in Isako West. We cannot continue with the kind of disorder we have at our junctions. If you look at those pictures, that is 3rd Junction, Sakoba, on Sakoba Road. We are going to be working with the transport unions, and from first quarter next year, the picture you see on the right will be what our junctions will look like. I've had a lot of pressure. People are saying, oh, build flyovers, build flyovers. I said, we don't need flyovers in Edo. We don't need flyovers in Benin City because this has been a very well-planned city. If we just organize the way transport flows, then we will not need to be flying over anywhere to anywhere. One of the projects we're hoping that we will move significantly before we leave office is the Benin River Port. It makes economic sense. The studies have been completed, the environmental impact assessment has been done, and applications have been made to the MPA, and we're at the stage where we're making the final push to get investors to help us build that port. Because with the congestion you see in Apapa, it just makes sense to move goods from that port, containers from Apapa, through the Benin River to the Benin City River Port, so that people going to Onitsha or to other parts in the east or the north can come in here and move their cargoes. The world is talking about environment today. The world is talking about net zero carbon. Everybody is in Egypt as we speak, because that is one of the biggest challenges that faces mankind. We, fortunately, have that natural advantage, the sense that we're in the rainforests. If we grow enough, God has given us that climate to grow enough trees to absorb the carbon dioxide in our air and clean up for us. But what we met was a situation where forests were just indiscriminately reserved. And, trees were being cut down, and we just had massive deforestation. People were just coming in, cutting down trees and exporting without any control. That we are stopping by making sure that we have now updated our forestry laws, which have not been updated for about 40 or so years. We now have a new forestry law, which has set up a forestry commission. So all the issues relating to forestry is now in one place. We're training forest police officers or forest rangers, new generation of them, arming them, hoping to arm them and give them the communication devices to make sure that our forests are not ungoverned territories anymore for criminals and for people who come and log indiscriminately. We are investing in forests, and next year we're going to be doing fresh allocations for people who want to invest in forestry assets. In the area of the environment, we must clean and green Edo. Oba Atokwe, here we'll be needing the support of our traditional institutions. We all agree we cannot continue to run our cities with the kind of filth we see today. We have to force the local governments to do what they're supposed to do. The state government will give them the support. Every child in Edo is now being encouraged that on their birthdays they must plant a tree. So that by the time they are 30, a child is 30, they've already planted 30 trees and they can see where those trees are, either at home, in their father's farms or villages, or in their schools. So, because if you go to some cities like Atlanta in the world, you are flying in, it's all green. When you are flying into Edo of Benin City, you think you are flying into a desert because you can't find any green. We have to stop it and go back to what God has given us. The last area of reform is our arts and culture. Nobody has what we have in the world. So for us, that is a unique advantage we need to build on. We need to create a situation where people come to our state, to our city, to see what they've heard about and read about us. Our modes, our food, our bronze work, everybody, we want to encourage people to come. And so what we've done is to say, let's define a cultural district. So we can now begin to advertise Edo as a cultural hub to the world and drive traffic here. Because we all travel. We go to Venice, what do we go and see? We just go and see what we heard is there. So let's clean up, let's organize, and let's get people to now begin to come and see what we have. See the beauty in our traditional systems and see the beauty in our landscape. Whether it's cultural tourism, whether it's ecotourism, whether it's business tourism, these are areas we want to focus on to drive traffic. Can you imagine if 1 million people come into Edo every year and spend $1,000 when they come? That is more than our IGR as a state. We are also using that as an opportunity to also work with our young people. Our young people are very, very creative. So as a government, we're helping them build in the infrastructure so that whether it is movies, whether it is music, whether it's theater, they don't have to spend or struggle to go elsewhere to express themselves. That's why we converted the old warehouses in the Observer premises into the Victor Owaifo soundstage. And we've equipped that facility with world-class audio and video mixing and production facilities so that we can continue to get the young people to produce their films, to produce their music in Benin City and Edo State. We want to thank Rock TV for deciding to come and shoot most of their home movies in Edo. This year alone, I understand they've shot almost 30 Nollywood movies in that facility. For us, the future is, like I said, culture. We're creating a cultural district. We're mapping them out. In my budget announcement this year, we're going to be making provisions to encourage museums. The Royal Museum will come, will be supported. We have the National Museum, it will be supported. Other private museums. So when people come, they have things to come and see. The moats we are doing, we're rehabilitating, working with the federal government, sections of the moats so that people can come in and do moat walks. They can walk to Igun Street, look at what we have as part of what we have to offer. We must begin to drive traffic into Edo so that we can earn income from tourism. It's been a long journey the last 6 years. So as we begin to wind down, what is the future? We have to sustain what we have started. And we are calling on all of you Edo citizens to join us, to support us. We've made significant progress. The world has changed. We are very advantaged. We need to build on what we have started. What we have started are just baby steps, but we can see that where we are going is full of opportunities and benefits. We have to be the production hub of this country because we have the energy source to do so. We have to be the talent source. We've always been that. Wherever you find an institution working and things happening, check it out. There's usually an Edo person behind it. We have to be the culture capital of our sub-region. And all of this can only be possible when we have an agile civil service, an agile public service to run government.
Omo Aluke Ajakaye, TMC TV News. No forget your PVC Nebio power. No sell am give any politician on election day.